Hello. Highway this week is visiting a town whose fortunes were founded on a railway. It's Swindon. Yes, Swindon, that place just off the M4, which boasts it is the fastest growing town in Western Europe. Now, I didn't want to interfere, but a few weeks ago I was in Peterborough, and they made exactly the same claim. Be that as it may, what's for sure is Swindon is a far cry from those days when it was just a village on a hill with about 500 families. And what's equally sure is that Swindon's prosperity began when Isambard Kingdom Brunel created the Great Western Railway. The town became the centre for its workshops. Come with me now to the Railway Museum, where over the years a fascinating collection of memorabilia has been assembled. And here's the man in charge of the whole shebang, Tim Bryan. Welcome aboard, Tim.
Thank you.
Now, the GWR was famous for its broad gauge locomotives like this one, wasn't it?
That's right. In the early days of the railway, the Great Western differed from all the other companies in that its track gauge was 7 feet and a quarter of an inch, rather than the 4 foot 8.5 standard gauge. And locomotives like this one, the North Star, thundered up and down the line between Bristol and London.
People who worked for the company thought it was marvellous. Was it really the best in the world?
Well, we like to think it was. It was known as God's wonderful railway, and it seems to have inspired love not only from the travelling public but also from its workforce, mainly because it provided so much for its workers. In Swindon itself, it provided a whole range of facilities. A whole village had to be built for the workforce, about 300 cottages to start with, and then a hospital, a school, a church, and lots of other facilities were provided for the workers.
All put up at the same time, were they?
No, it was a historical process from the beginning of the century to the end of the century, but by the end of the century the workforce was well looked after.
You have the air of a man who enjoys his job.
That's right. Well, it is very much like a paid hobby to me, and it's lovely to work with such beautiful beasts like these locomotives.
Anyway, thanks for talking to us, Tim.
Thank you.
It's a funny business, the show business. Take my next guest. A few months ago, she moved out of the country. Now she finds herself doing panto back in the city. Not that it seems to bother her much.
I don't believe in fretting and grieving. Why mess around with strife? I never was cut out to step and strut out. Give me the simple life. Some find it pleasant dining on pheasant. Those things roll off my knife. Just serve me tomatoes and mashed potatoes. Give me the simple life. A cottage small is all I'm after, not one that's spacious and wide. A house that rings with joy and laughter, and the one you love inside. Some like the high road, I like the low road, free from the care and strife. It sounds corny and silly, but yes indeed, it gives me the simple life. For say what you will, the countryside is still the only place where I could settle down. Troubles there are so much rarer out of town, where a cottage small is all I'm after, not one that's spacious and wide. A house that rings with joy and laughter, and the ones you love inside. Some like the high road, I like the low road, free from the cares and strife. It sounds corny and silly, but yes indeed, give me the simple life out of town. That's where I settle down, maybe as a wife, but anyway I'll enjoy the simple life.
That was the ever popular Helen Shapiro. When one door closes, you have to open another. It's been that way with Swindon, because since the decline of the heavy engineering factories and the golden age of the train, this Wiltshire town has to look elsewhere for its prosperity. Enterprising marketing has led, over the past 20 years, to a dramatic change in the landscape. One of the more recent men behind this creation of New Swindon is Douglas Smith. Douglas, why do you think Swindon's been so successful in attracting new business?
Well, I think, first of all, we've got to say that it's a good product, but like all products, it has to be marketed. I think a very strong point is that traditionally, the workforce in the Swindon area has been fairly good with its employers. A good employer here finds that his employees don't run next door for tuppence halfpenny, which you find in other parts. Our transport, generally, we have the finest rail service to Paddington an hour. We're near to Heathrow. The motorway, of course, is a great blessing. And so, in the last 6 years, we've brought about 20,000 new jobs, that's industry and commerce, to this area. And, of course, one of the great assets we have here, of which I'm particularly proud, is that the sort of development you see here has been funded by the cold-eyed gentry of the city, and it hasn't cost the ratepayer a great deal to provide the assets which produces jobs and the economy.
How big do you think it's going to get?
Well, of course, if you take a 5-year view, we can assume that we shall be able to accommodate industrial buildings and offices to create at least another 5,000 jobs. You must remember that although you've been kind enough to say we're successful, we still have 10% unemployed, and therefore we must go on selling Swindon as an industrial and commercial location. And therefore I would say it'll end by more and more American investment in particular, and increasingly Japanese investment.
So you see it as a hope, everything is hopeful.
Oh, I think you can be optimistic about Swindon for at least 5 years anyway.
Well, thanks for talking to us, Douglas.
Thank you, Harry.
One of the companies to have moved here recently is the Bible Society. Its head of research has done a study of the effect of the change. He's John Jeffrey. John, where's the Bible Society moved from?
Well, after over 100 years, we've just moved from Blackfriars in the centre of London, the heart of the city, here to Swindon.
Is it a change for the better?
From the point of view of our staff, it must be. It means that people can live near their work. They've got a much better working environment. They haven't got all the hassles of London. One of the things that strikes me most vividly about London, I lived in Battersea, and just before I left London, I was in Clapham Junction, and a man collapsed in the corner of a road. Everybody totally ignored him. I went up to see if I could help, thinking maybe he was drunk, maybe it was something else. The man had had a heart attack. Nobody stopped. People stepped over him. I did stop, feeling a bit of a fool in doing so. When I noticed he had a heart attack, I asked if people would help, and people ignored me. And I was there on my own for 20 minutes in the middle of a crowded street in London trying to help a man who'd had a heart attack. And it wasn't until a policeman came along that anybody bothered to help. And we've moved out of that. We've moved out of the rat race. And in Swindon, I think we're in a much kinder area amongst people with much more time for each other. So I think it is a move for the better.
Tell us something about the work of the Bible Society.
Well, Bible Society, since 1804, has had one aim, and that is to ensure that anyone, anywhere in the world who wants a Bible may have one in a language that they can understand and at a price they can afford. You'll be interested to know, Sir Harry, that in fact the Bible Society started in order to provide Bibles for Welsh-speaking people in Wales. But since then, in the 180 years since that time, we've translated either the full Bible or a part of the Bible into over 1,800 different languages. But there are still 4,000 to go.
How did you become involved in the Bible Society?
A long story, but basically it started because the Bible quite literally saved my life. Until 10 years ago, I was a heroin addict, and my contact with the Bible initially came in prison. I was actually in hospital under the care of prison, waiting to have my arm amputated as a result of a dirty heroin fix, feeling absolutely desperate. My life was in ruins. And the doctor who was going to operate on me came up and said that he realized how terrible I must have felt, and there was no medicine or no easy words he could give me. But he asked me if maybe I wanted this, he said, and slid a Bible across to me. And I read that, a part of that Bible that night, and I think that my life started to change. I remember after I'd read a part of the Bible, I said, God, if you're really there, because I wasn't sure he was, but if you're really there, help me. And my life has totally changed since then. It started because I didn't lose my arm, I just lost 2 fingers. There are some people who say, well, if God is so smart, why didn't you keep your fingers? But I think maybe that's because I couldn't possibly lift up a hypodermic syringe now without realizing what it's already cost me. But initially I started to work amongst other addicts, trying to help them on the road to recovery. But I felt an inexorable pressure to work in a different direction. I didn't realize it was going to be with the Bible, but I think God has used the Bible to help me in my life and wants me now to work for his word through working for Bible Society.
Thanks very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
The printed page is one method of spreading the message, music is another, and I can vouch for that. Here's the word according to the Pete Allen Band with a gospel medley.
Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside, down by the riverside. Gonna study one more, study one more. I ain't gonna study one more. Down by the riverside, gonna lay my burden down, and I ain't gonna study war no more. Down by the river I stand, won't somebody hold my hand? I'm tired and I'm weary and I'm worn. Lord, Lord, lead on, precious Lord, Lord, lead on. Hold my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. If you get there before I do, over in the glory land, won't you tell my friends that I'll be coming too, over in the glory land. Over in the glory land, can't you hear that happy angel band? Over in the glory land, over in the glory land, can Jesus come and hold my hand? Over in the glory land.
On the outskirts of Swindon, where the new housing is being built, the council have opened this magnificent leisure complex. It's the Link Centre at Westley, and it costs more than £11 million. It's a tribute to the town's determination to have the most modern amenities in the world. One of its fans is ex-Manchester United and Scotland player, now manager of Swindon Town, Lou Riccardi. Lou, an obvious first question, how's the team doing?
Okay at the moment, but football, you live from week to week, so you never get too excited how you're doing. As I say, we're going great guns at the moment, but 2 weeks in football can sort of ruin your whole season.
That's another question I was going to ask. The tremendous pressures put on football managers these days, and it must be put on you. How do you cope with it?
Well, unfortunately, you're relying on 11 players out in the field, and you've not got much control over that. But again, when you're near the top, and we're there at the moment, I don't believe there's any pressure. It's when you start losing games, people want to ask questions, and they deserve, answers. I think the biggest problem a manager has is looking after each and individual player indifferently, because we're all different in life, and some you've got to treat different than others. And really, the main job I think of a manager is getting to know the people you're dealing with. And I think if you can achieve that, you've got half a chance of being a decent manager.
It seems a bit unfair to me that directors sometimes seem to sack a manager at the first sign of bad times for the team.
I think that's one of the hazards of being a football manager. When you take the job, you realise that. As I said earlier, the unfortunate thing is you want to be out there playing yourself to keep your own job.
You feel that yourself now, do you?
Well, you do, because your job's always on the line, and even if you're near the top of the league like we are, it can all change for you within a month, and then the pressure starts coming on, and you say to yourself, well, if I can get out there and score a few goals, my job's safe, but you're relying on 11 other people, which is not the ideal job to have.
But indeed. Now, they have tremendous facilities here at Swindon, don't they? Do you think it'll produce any stars in the future?
Well, we hope so. I mean, I think that's the object of having these facilities that we've got. You hope that one day you have possibly a Torval and Dean, and I mean, they've brought Nottingham on the map, so to speak, and hopefully the money the council put in, and it's a lot of money, they will be repaid one day. It might be 10 years from now, it might be 15, but hopefully the name of Swindon, through sporting people, will be on the map.
Well, good luck to you, Lou. Good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
It's an incredible fact that the wonderfully youthful Helen Shapiro is celebrating 25 years in show business.
Yes, well, don't forget, Harry, I did start very young.
Yes, your first 3 numbers were in the top 10 before you were 14.
That's right.
And 2 of those are number 1s, weren't they?
That's true, true.
How did it feel to make the big time so young?
Well, it was wonderful, of course, and I don't want to knock it, but I think if I had the time over again, I would like it to have been a little more gradual.
I think I know what you mean. Step by step, little by little, 1 foot at a time.
First a jot, then a tittle. That's the way to climb.
Take it slow, watch your expenses, and you'll soon be rich.
Chaps who go rushing their fences wind up lying in a ditch.
Brick by brick, plenty of mortar, that's the way to build.
Drop by drop, pour the water till your cup is filled.
Fresh cut wood, snaps got its brittle, given time, little by little, seasoned wood begins to bend.
Take it easy,
Step by step, what's the hurry?
step by step, not to worry.
You're bound to get there in the end. You're bound to get there in the end. Here's another favourite, Britain's famous poetess, Pam Ayres. Pam, you're normally associated with your home county, Oxfordshire, aren't you? Why is it that Swindon is a special place in your heart?
Well, because I was only born 8 miles away from Swindon, in Berkshire as it then was, but it's been changed now. The boundary's been changed and it's now Oxfordshire. But we used to come here for a treat. I mean, it was a great delight for us to come to Swindon. We used to come when anybody needed a new coat.
How much has Swindon changed since you were a child?
Oh, beyond recognition. I mean, I don't know this part of Swindon, this new West End development at all, but the bits I do know have all changed. All the shops have got bigger.
Is that because they look bigger to you or they are bigger?
Oh, no, they've been made bigger. Everything's on a much bigger scale.
This, of course, is brand new, isn't it? This is all...
Yes, all this centre is very popular with my nieces. They come here to skate. But I haven't actually been before.
Now, you've written a poem especially for the programme, haven't you?
I have, yes. It's,
Will you do us the honour, madam?
my Swindon celebration. Yes, I will. Swindon, flower of Wiltshire, land of Isambard, Brunel, Great Western Railway's birthplace, and Diana Dawes as well. I never dream of Rio, when the pace is high and wild. No, take me back to Swindon, where I came to as a child. Once or twice a year, we used to come here on the train. Oh, the wonder and excitement that we felt, I can't explain. The terror of the engine and the whistle and the soot and the rivets on the footbridge and the cinders underfoot. My Uncle Sam was porter at a station down the line. He'd march along the platform looking very smart and fine, calling, "Challo, Challo Station, all aboard." And I'd proudly watch from under the communications cord. And off we'd go to Swindon gaily, never fearing that one day the beaching bulldozers would knock our station flat, would cart away the platform where my Uncle Sam held reign, would mean the Swindon special never stopped for us again. Well, Swindon's very different now and growing by the day. Computer-based technology has swept the old away. They thunder off the motorway, executives galore, to watch their VDUs and give their micro drives what for. The little shops we used to patronise have now all gone, and massive shopping centres took their place and carried on. You never were a lovely town, no noble spire or dome, but I'll always love you, Swindon, for you make me think of home.
With a new community of 36,000 people artificially added to the original population, it must be hard to have that very special feeling of belonging. That problem is a major challenge facing the church. And the man facing squarely to that challenge is the Venerable Kenneth Clark, Archdeacon of Swindon. How is the church approaching the problem?
Well, the church is not the only agency in this field, Harry. It's one of a good many. We've got a very vigorous lead from our borough council, who really have got a strong community relations department and officers working in the area. And through everybody's door who comes into this new area, this is put, tells them all the things that are happening, from when the dustbins are collected to where their children can go from playgroups and everything else. And the church is a partner in that. Obviously, our principal job is to provide a centre for Christian worship and fellowship and prayer. That's the church's reason for existing at all. At the same time, we're concerned with the whole person, and we try to provide facilities, as not only for worship, but also for all the social needs of the people in this new area.
How can the church help in that way?
Well, what we try to do in the first place is to put people in before we put buildings up. In the latest part of this development, the Shore area, we've already got an Anglican priest and a URC minister working, with perhaps only a population of about 1,000 at the moment, though it'll be a good many thousand by this time next year. By the time we have our church up, perhaps in 18 months' time, it'll probably be 7,000 or 8,000 people.
How many people altogether will be moving eventually into this area?
Well, as you said, I think at the beginning, it's 36,000 people. Now, that's the size of the next largest place in this county. Swindon is by far the largest place in Wiltshire, but the next place is Salisbury, which most people know.
Yeah, we're
but
going
it's
there
the
soon.
population of Salisbury which is being put down on this side of Swindon.
That's a lot of people.
When you think of all the facilities that Salisbury's got through the centuries that it's existed, that's what all of us together have got to try and provide for this part of Swindon.
Big problem,
It is a big problem.
but you're coping with it.
But we're coping with it. We put our best people in on this part of the world. We put rather more clergy than we would normally do for the present population, because it's an area of growth, obviously, and of great opportunity for the church. But we're tackling it.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Harry.
A prime example of the church facing up to a special problem. Now, when I have a special problem, I take great comfort in the next song.
Lord, as I travel on the great highway, these prayers I offer you each and every day. I pray you give me a sunny morning, framed in a clear blue sky, songbirds to sing at dawning. With them my cares will fly, raindrops to be my diamonds, rustling of trees my song, fireside to warm and welcome me all winter long. As I travel far on my way, beauty in all I see, so I give my blessings and your loving care. These prayers I offer for travelers everywhere.
Well, you can see that there's more to Swindon than just being a place for storing old locomotives. And I think it showed itself to be a lively community with a prosperous future. Now I'm reminded of the words of John Jeffreys after he read the Bible that the doctor had put in his hand. So I said to God, help me. Because I didn't know then if he existed. And he did. Thought for all of us there. Well, next Sunday, the highway goes to another developing area in the neighbouring county of Hampshire, Basingstoke. I'll see you then, if this thing works.